Music, you can dance to it, sing with it, fall in love to it.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Kevin, I'm a geek. You're watching Kevin the Geek. And today, I'm continuing with my Doctor Who celebration, celebrating the 60th anniversary, celebrating the return of David Tennant, of Catherine Tate, of Russel T. Davies, but especially in this case, the return of Murray Gold. Now, if you have seen any of my Doctor Who reviews, or potentially some of my actual rankings that I've done as well, you may have heard me say on many occasions that music can make or break a scene. And I am a humongous fan of music in TV, film, video games, because you can have an amazing scene, but with the right track, it can amplify it and take it to unseen levels and make you as a viewer feel certain ways. And it is as important, in my personal opinion, as the writing, the acting, the special effects, everything. And so, because Murray Gold is returning as composer for Doctor Who, I thought, let's do another ranking. Let's do a ranking of my personal opinion, top 10 best tracks written by Murray Gold and composed by Murray Gold. Now, these are, of course, going to be subjective. These are my personal viewpoints. You may disagree with them. If you do, fine. I have no problem with you disagreeing with me. If you want to put your reasons why down in the comments, please feel free to do so. As I always say, please keep any disagreements civil. But we have got 10 to get through. And of the various rankings that I've done on my channel for Doctor Who related stuff, I feel that this one has been the hardest one to do. Because some of my rankings have been fairly straightforward and I don't really need to do that much research within it. Maybe I'd say prior to this point, the hardest one was probably the one where I ranked the top 10 best cold opens of Doctor Who. Because I had to watch the cold opens of, what was that, approximately 200-ish odd episodes of New Who. And that took me about 8 hours or so to kind of do that. Here, listening to every single track, listening to the entirety of each of the tracks, not just like certain clips, like the entirety of the song, this has arguably put me probably closer to 24 hours worth of having to listen to music. So this has taken me many days to kind of put together and to work out what my top 10 is. And even then, like from my initial go around, I had about 40 tracks that I could have chosen and could easily have chosen to put on this list. Narrowing it down, like I could pretty much only narrow it down, like pretty much like taking out about 5 at a time. It was so difficult. And there will be some ones on here that you may think, oh yeah, that's a very, that's an easy choice going for that particular song. And there'll be others that you might think, ooh, that's an interesting one. I never would have thought about that one. And I will try and explain my reasons. Now, if you are new to the channel, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, turn on notifications, smash the like button, and of course, drop your comments down below. I've done loads of different Doctor Who related stuff this month in celebrating the 60th anniversary, and that will include doing a reaction to the specials when they come out, and then I will do reactions to Doctor Who as the new episodes come out. But there's been no new episodes of Doctor Who since I started the channel, so that's going to be new and exciting. So, enough talking from me. Let's get ranking. So this first one on the list, at number 10, Just Scarecrows to War, is one of those ones that I feel probably a lot of people wouldn't have on their list. But for me, there's something about this track. And I will obviously, of course, get into all the other choices when I get to them. But a lot of those have featured in multiple episodes. And so you've probably heard them a lot more. This one only ever really featured in at least one of the episodes. I think it might have appeared in the first part of it, but it definitely appeared in the second part. And that is the Series 3 story, Human Nature and Family of Blood. So, this one, the reason I've kind of gone with this one is because of the fact that it is a sort of military kind of thing. But at the same time, it's got this kind of lightness to it, which is quite strange because the moment itself should be really dark. You know, you've got these aliens and you've got them kind of getting these scarecrow puppets to come out and basically attack people. But I think what Murray Gold has clearly done, he's taken inspiration from the idea in this that the headmaster makes war fun and he makes it enjoyable. And of course, when you have that scene a little bit later on when the children at the school are having to shoot and attack these scarecrows, it's obviously a very different song. But here, this is the point where it's sort of taking on that sort of jolliness to this kind of scene. And I feel that what he did with the music for this, whereas it could have been this sort of big, heavy, bombastic kind of thing, it took a very different approach. And I appreciate that approach.
Some would be inspired. Some would run away. And some would go mad.
So this is one of those that is, again, more of a famous one, but hasn't really featured in that many episodes, in truth be told. And this is Gallifrey, is just wonderful. It's quite a long one. It's arguably one of the longest ones on this list. If you listen to the full track, it's something like 7 odd minutes. But there is something about it that's kind of mystical, whilst at the same time being sort of haunting, maybe at the same time, because this is basically where the Doctor's reminiscing and he's thinking back to his past, and he's thinking about, you know, the very different lives that the Doctor and the Master takes and where they've come from. And of course, this is obviously before this was the timeless child scenario, and so we didn't have you know, technically the you know, this child Doctor being, you know, the Doctor, you know, and his first body and being, you know, legitimately 9 years old. So you know, let's take that aspect of it aside. But otherwise, there's just, yeah, this song is just brilliant. Now, there has been a tremendously good number of kind of villain themes from Doctor Who. And I knew I wanted to at least feature one because the you know, you have the themes for the Doctors, you've got the themes for the companions, you have even things like a theme for not Torture, sorry, Unit. And like I said, yeah, the music kind of puts you in the particular mood that you need to be for the scene that you're watching. And I feel that none other encapsulates it better than this particular piece of music. And I really had to debate long and hard between this one and the track that was just called The Daleks, which was, I think it was first featured in the two-parter finale to Series 1 with the Ninth Doctor. But I feel that this one just has something that little bit more. because this is supposedly in The Stolen Earth and Journey's End. This is supposed to be the biggest and the most severe threat of the Daleks ever faced. And so the music has to live up to that moment of the story, and it just delivers on every aspect. And Murray Gold really likes to have a lot of choral elements to his music. He doesn't just like to have these big, amazing orchestral pieces, which he is absolutely fantastic at writing, but these choral moments add just enough of an extra level to it. And a lot of time they are written in Latin or Hebrew or some kind of language of a similar kind of nature. In this one, I think it's a little bit of both, actually. I think he uses both Hebrew and Latin. But when you break them down and you actually translate them, it shows that he's really thinking about them. And he's not just necessarily using Latin or Hebrew or anything like that for the sake of it. He's doing it with a purpose. And sometimes I think in this particular scenario, having the English words being sung, it wouldn't quite have the same effect. Like, if you think about Validation, which isn't on this list, and it was so close to being on this list, you know, the song where the Doctor regenerates, the 10th Doctor regenerates. Again, you break down, the nuances of it. You know, it's saying lines, for example, like Validation, I think translates to like Farewell 10 or Farewell Doctor or something of that. No, I think it is Farewell 10 because Date Gem, I think it means 10 or something like that. But it just means that if you're singing Farewell Ted, to Validation, I'm not doing the right melody there, so forgive me there. But it just wouldn't have that same link to it. And that's what I feel makes a really good impact in some of his writing. And there's one particular episode that everybody raves about and always highly regards it, and that's Blink. And for good reason. It's a fantastic episode. You know, the acting is brilliant, the directing is brilliant, the villains are brilliant, but especially the music is brilliant. And again, it's all about putting you in the mood. And this music is just, it's sort of creepy yet familiar. It's haunting yet beautiful. There's all these subtle layers that just go underneath it to give you this kind of warm and fuzzy feeling, yet at the same time feeling kind of cold and lonely. And again, having a composer like Murray Gold who can portray all these different elements to his music and feeding them through to link to the story and to the scenes, it is just amazing. And that's why this song has a place on this list. This is the point that these top 6 really could have been in any order on this list. I think the first 4, they were kind of easier to place, but these ones, I have literally gone backwards and forwards for pretty much the last day, kind of working and trying to think, which order do I put these in? And I finally settled on the order that I have. And here at number 6, it is A Good Man, which is generally considered the theme for the 12th Doctor, for Peter Capaldi. And the bit where the music kind of kicks in, the dun 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 dun, that kind of bit, that's probably the bit that most people are familiar with. That is the one that they hear the most throughout Capaldi's time as the Doctor. But kind of what I was saying with Blink, if you listen to the first part of it, which is a bit that most people probably won't listen to, again, there's this kind of overlapping with kind of two different kind of themes, and it's basically where you have, because it's the Doctor posing this moral quandary, which kind of follows him throughout his time, which is why I think it's quite good that this kind of piece of music follows him. And it's basically that question, am I a good man or am I a bad man? And the music that you have prior to the kick-in kind of part of it is you have this kind of lighter moment, kind of teasing with this kind of darker music. And they kind of come backwards and forwards and they sort of overlap one in each other. And they keep coming back in and coming back out before you get to that moment where the music like truly kicks in, which is basically where we're going, actually, no, you are a good man, but there is, that deeper meaning behind it as well. And the idea that Murray Gold can do that to give you that sense of doubt with the music is mwah. Now this one is probably the first piece of music that came to mind when I was coming up with this list. And this was one that I knew had to be on this list. Because this was a very recurring motif running throughout Series 6. And it was all to do with River Song and the Impossible Astronaut and Amy and the baby, and I think it was first used, and I could be wrong, but I think it was first used during that regeneration scene right at the end of the second part of the two-part opener for Series 6, where you saw, obviously you didn't know it at the time, but it was Melody Pond regenerating into her next form. And for me, it is just so haunting and mysterious and beautiful yet tragic all at the same time, which is what Melody Pond and River Song really, really is. And I would say there is less of the adventureness to this kind of theme for her, but that's because she isn't really River Song. I think when she becomes River Song, that's when you get these kind of more jolly and joyful kind of pieces of music. But for her, in this instance, this is the piece of music that is truly needed for her character, because she has been stolen as a child. She's been raised to be this ruthless, determined killer to kill the Doctor. And ultimately, I think just everything it symbolizes is very close to perfect. I think that this piece of music is the one that symbolizes Murray Gold the most. It's the first theme that was ever used for the Doctor. It was also the final piece of music used during an episode in which Murray Gold was involved with, of course, prior to him coming back this year. It was featured in the the final episode with Peter Capaldi, and it played in the moments after Peter Capaldi regenerated into Jodie Whittaker, into the 13th Doctor. And in a way, I feel that that is kind of perfect, because it brings, his initial time on the show full circle. And it's just everything I could want from a theme for the Doctor. It's haunting, it's beautiful, it's tragic. And I'm using a lot of the same words for a lot of these things, and I do apologise for that. But I feel that, like I said, these tracks are so close to one another. They're so emotive that, in a way, a lot of the same words have to be used in order to describe these pieces of music. But this piece of music, for me, just sums up particularly the Ninth Doctor's era so much. And again, this was one I just knew had to be on this list. I just didn't know where. Now, for this third place entry, I may be cheating slightly. And that is because this song is effectively 2 songs in one. Now, there is one piece of music which sums up the 11th Doctor and his theme, and that is I Am the Doctor, which is just a wonderful piece of music, and it's one that you can't just help feel giddy and jolly when you listen to it, which I think it does sum up the 11th Doctor, particularly in that first instance, you know, when he's described himself as a madman with a box. But I think the reason I'm going with this particular track is partially so I can include I Am the Doctor, which kind of comes in towards the end. But it's for the first part of it as well, because I feel that this track sums up the Doctor-Amy relationship. And, you know, this is the track that played the first time that Amy Pond walked into the TARDIS, and she sees obviously the rejuvenated TARDIS, you know, so she's walking into this TARDIS. And bear in mind, she hasn't seen the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS, which is a bit grungy, a bit punky, but here she's walking into this brightly coloured room that is got all these whizzing dials, and it's just bright and warm and cozy and welcoming, and it sums up everything she ever thought about the Doctor, because he was a fairy tale for her growing up, her raggedy Doctor, you know, something that she just thought was a dream, but also kind of knew that he was real, and she kind of thought he was a bit of an imaginary friend. And so this moment that she walks into the TARDIS, it kind of transports her back to being, you know, that sort of 7-year-old girl again, where she's able to be a little kid for a moment and embrace this kind of fairy tale magic. And that's the part of this track that I love the most, is that kind of fairy tale start to it. Yes, it obviously kind of comes in later on with the I Am the Doctor track, which is again a theme that I absolutely love. And I wanted a way to kind of feature that on this list, and this I felt was the best way of being able to combine, you know, 2 birds with 1 stone. So, you know, you might think I'm cheating, but hey, this is my list. Now, this track, I really, really thought was going to be my number 1 pick. And you will probably understand why when I get to my number 1 pick in just a moment. But for this track, I have to say it is my favourite piece of music from Doctor Who. It is from my favourite episode of Doctor Who. I may, you know, think that other episodes technically may rank higher than this episode, but for me, this is my personal favourite. I love The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, and the music plays such an amazing role in that. And if you have not seen my review of The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, please go back and check that out. I will put obviously the link to it, so you can click on it and you can go and watch it. And that's probably the review at this moment in time that I've done for Doctor Who that I'm probably the most proud of. You know, because it's my favourite episode, there's so much I can talk about it. But when we're talking about the music, and I'm going to try and talk about the whole track as well, you know, the start of it has that really creepy kind of rising crescendo, you know, of the kind of almost a little bit sort of done in a way that it's almost like nails on a chalkboard. It's something that's uncomfortable to listen to, and that's the motif used a lot when the beast is kind of involved. Then you go into the main portion of the track, and it is the one that I feel symbolizes this episode the most, because you're on a planet that should not exist, or an asteroid that should not exist, that's orbiting a black hole. And the music symbolizes everything. It's a horrible place. It's dark. It's cold. It's creepy. It's mysterious. It's haunting. Again, I could use the same word. But ultimately, it's the loneliness aspect of it. Because here you've got a group of explorers going out to a place that shouldn't exist, that is fraught with the most immense danger, and a place that should never have anyone visiting. But it has this moment towards the end which kind of brings a positive note to the track. And it's the part of it that I feel symbolizes that aspect of it, the explorers and going out and learning new things, as well as the dark and the cold and the uninhabited and the screechiness bits for the beast. It's everything combined into one single track, and I love it so much. But it doesn't take my number one spot. Boy, oh boy, this is a track, a scene, and a moment that I feel gets overshadowed. Because I think everyone remembers from that final episode featuring Amy and Rory. They remember the scene where Rory gets taken and Amy is doing everything she can to get taken by the angel so she can be back with him forever. And that is a truly heartbreaking scene. It is arguably up there, top two, moments for a companion's exit. It'll come very close to time with Donna Nobles. But it's the scene before it, for me, that takes this number one spot. For the moment where Rory basically decides that he's going to jump off the roof to kill himself to hopefully create a paradox to save his life and to save Amy's life. But he does that with the unknowing risk of whether he will actually survive at all. And Amy makes the supreme decision to jump with him. Because these two characters have gone on such an amazing roller coaster of a journey. And it's easy to think of some of those early missteps along the way. Like, for example, the moment that Amy decided to try and seduce the doctor on the night before her wedding. And Rory has died numerous times. He became the last centurion, the man who waited 2,000 years to be with the woman he loved the most. You had Amy, who got trapped in a sort of parallel pocket universe and became the girl who waited. And Rory had to make the supreme sacrifice to get rid of the original Amy to get back the technically true original Amy. Then, of course, you have the whole issue with them having a child together, that child getting taken from them, losing that child, their child growing up to be a psychotic murderer who they only kind of know in the adult form as River Song. And because of everything that happened with that, Amy became infertile. So she and Rory broke up and were driven apart. They got back together, and they come to this final moment where Amy just says, if you jump, I jump, because I cannot live without you. And like I said at the start, music can make and break a scene. And just listening to this music, I wasn't watching it with the scenes. I was just listening to the track. It brought me back to tears. It's that powerful. And that is why that one takes my #1 spot. Apologies, this has been a bit of a long video, but I hope you can understand why, and I hope you can appreciate the insane amount of effort I've had to put in to create this video and this ranking for you. So I really do appreciate a like. I really would appreciate you subscribing if you have not done so already. And I would really appreciate you checking out my other, both Doctor Who and non-Doctor Who related content. But most importantly, make sure you stick with me for the upcoming Doctor Who specials, where I will give you a full reaction and a hopefully condensed reaction as well. That is going to do it for this ranking of Doctor Who. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. For today, my name's Kevin. I am a geek, and you've been watching Kevin the Geek. Goodbye.